Across the last 3 years, Centria has been on a mission to fundamentally transform the model of care for our clients, our staff, and the industry.
We will share with you our journey towards assent-based care, the lessons we've learned, and the people we've learned them with.
We're your hosts, Timothy Yeager
and Hillary Laney.
Welcome to the HRE podcast.
Welcome to the HRE podcast season 2. I'm so excited you guys are here. What we're going to start with is just some introductions. So I would love for you to tell our audience and tell us about yourself. What do you do at Centria? How long have you been working with us? All of that.
Cool. Want me to go first? Yeah. Okay. I'm Brit Bauerle, and I've been at Centria for almost 2 years now.
It's crazy.
Yeah. End of April, I think, beginning of May. And I am a part of the DFADI team, Director of Functional Analysis and Treatment Implementation. And we work through mentorship. I represent the West Coast a little bit and get to work with clinicians and directors, area directors in Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
What are you mentoring them in?
I'm mentoring them in foundational plan and SBT, skill-based treatment, and some complex case consultation too.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great. My name's Edward Sanabria. I'm also Director of Functional Assessment Treatment Implementation. I've been with Centria for 3 years, almost in May.
Yeah.
It'll be 3 years. And we developed the pyramidal model for our Foundations of Care mentorship. I support the East Coast, so I'm not going to go through all the states.
Maybe
Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Indiana, and Michigan.
Yeah. Very cool. We're really happy you're here.
3 years.
Isn't that wild?
I was looking at the photos that we took in that very first trip to
Michigan.
It looks like it was like shot in the 90s. It looks like it was like a long time ago that we took.
It was.
You know what's wild? I was just thinking about two of our other team members, their 3-year anniversary.
Yeah.
It happened so fast that literally the day that Kaylin and Lisa were hired, we started interviewing them.
Yeah.
They hadn't even started on the job. And
Crazy.
It was just here we go, let's do it. Yeah.
Got a team ready to go.
Yeah. And we were ready to I don't know if you want to speak to the mission, why we want you guys to talk with us. What were we trying to achieve?
Yeah. For this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think about being HRE, and I think about how we support our staff, and then we were talking about what does season 2 look like, and how do we think about how do we create conditions for our staff to thrive. You two were the first people that came to mind, without a doubt, right? So why is that? So you both have gone into some of the more difficult centers that we've had, or more challenging experiences that we've had. You've built relationship with people, right? You've put them through some very difficult contexts, and we're there to support them through it. And in the result of it, typically, I haven't heard it otherwise, they love you both through it, right? Which is flies in the face of, I think, a lot of people's fears about pushing through both challenging contexts, how you build a relationship, and I think you guys have demonstrated that. So it was obvious for us to have you guys here.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's
same.
been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
So, Britt, step 1, you go into a center and you're brand new and you're here to coach, train, support. They may not be the most receptive to you. What are the steps you take?
Think about Plano when we went to Plano last year.
Yeah. Well, I think coming in and I guess jumping right into that rapport building. So I think building that relationship with staff, starting with, RBTs and clinicians. I think sitting with people and sharing space, being observant, kind of listening is really important. I think that when people hear that people are coming in when they know things maybe aren't going great, they hold things kind of close to their chest. And I think by just sitting with them, spending time, asking questions, showing curiosity, I think that you kind of see how things work a little bit and then can kind of integrate yourself. I always think of, when we do our values-based activities and things like that, and thinking where people are coming from, and just like our learners, I think we're thinking of what their learning history is too. and their experiences might not have been great. And so just kind of reconditioning them to someone being there to say, hey, we're all working towards the same thing usually. And I think spending that quality time with them. And also, I think, too, showing them that you're there to model and demonstrate things. I think that goes a long way. I've had multiple people at centers just say, like, hey, you're kind of the first person we've seen do the thing and hang out with the kids and show us what you want us to do. And that was really meaningful, I think. Yeah.
Whenever I think about how you build rapport with people, the word curiosity comes up for me. And I was just talking with Ed about this yesterday, that like we need to talk about this word curiosity a lot more.
Yeah.
But I really think you embody it. And one of the ways I think you embody it most is something I try to do that you do so well and I don't replicate as well, is like the questions you ask people. I don't know how you do it, but you like latch on to something someone has said and you ask such a meaningful question. Like, we were at dinner the other night. We've gone to dinner a lot, and every time we do, you make a lot of friends, and I'm like, this is not how I make friends. It's amazing. By asking questions. Like, we got to know a waitress who was going through some things with her kids, and her husband was moving away, and she sat and talked with us for like 20 minutes, and it was because you asked all these questions, and you're so good at building that rapport. What I want to know is, how do you come up with these questions to ask people, to like dig in with curiosity?
So I think it's actually because I'm curious, right? genuinely curious. So, and I don't know. I think also that through asking questions for such a long time, I think that I can kind of tell what people would be like comfortable answering, or I think I actually tact that too, right? I actually say, hey, I'm really curious. And I think that you said that when you're like, hey, I know when you're gonna challenge someone or something, because you always say like, hey, I want you to be really curious or something like that, I think. And I think also it not only relates to work, but I think in my family life, in my just friendships, I think that I like to learn other people's side of things. I like to ask you a lot of questions. You always say, you're like, I feel like I'm always talking about me. I'm like, it's probably because I'm asking you a lot of questions.
I was going to say, one of the things I've learned from Brit is she values community. She values supporting other people. And I think that's part of it. It's like building that community in every place. And I've done the same thing. It's like, okay, I got to go ask some questions. I got to ask some more questions.
Figure stuff out.
Right? Because the more you know about somebody, we were talking to Nasia, or I've talked to Nasia about that piece she does on listening. And it's like, you can't know how to listen about or listen for if you're not asking questions. If you don't have that context to then be able to shift the way that you are approaching them, the way that you're trying to support them without knowing their why, without knowing some of their backstory, that really shapes the way that you can connect with people and support with people. So it's a great strategy.
I have just had it has been the most, first, I just always thank Timothy for the opportunity that I've had at Centria, but one of the most valuable things for me has been the opportunity to work with all of our teams, but since you are here, the ones I'm talking to, you two. I wouldn't devalue anyone I've worked with, but I just, it's such a privilege and an honor. And one of the things as a leader to the two of you that we've talked a lot about is that you build rapport in different ways. And so Brit, you do it through just this genuine curiosity, sitting in it, staying there with people. But Ed, you do it differently. It's different for you, but you both have the same outcome, which is what Timothy was talking about, is our teams, they see you as just the most trustworthy, kind, reliable, if I need something, I know where to go to, which is incredible. So what is different for you? How do you build rapport? That's different, because not everyone's going to be genuinely curious. Brit.
I definitely don't ask as many questions. I think for me, it's a combination of approaching with some humility, but with some confidence. I try to assume best intentions, but I also assume abilities in people, and coming at them in a way that I'm like, we're gonna get there. I know you can do this, but what's your learning history? And y'all know, I try to live in the literature and bringing resources to people, and so if I can figure out where the deficit is, where the gap is, maybe it's just a learning history or skill deficit, being able to kind of find where that is and where that openness is that they have, and latching onto that, and then shaping up from there. I think it's a lot of shaping tiny steps in different ways, that's been really helpful, and I don't think people realize that it's happening, right? If you can do it in a way that's gentle, if you do it in a way that's genuine, and find the small, and it's like SBT, skill-based treatment. It's like if you can shape the small enough step, people don't even know that they're being taught.
Yeah.
And I think that has been a really sick, and I'm pretty confident, and we've done this for 3 years now. We've trained, I've trained 100 clinicians,
if
directors,
not more,
if not more. And so when you get the reps and you start to learn how to like read the situations better, you start to understand people's profiles a little bit better on like what their needs might be based on their context, and being able to approach from different
The level
avenues.
of fluency.
In all the spaces I'm in with Ed, he's Ed with the Rolodex, because you want something or you're talking about something. He's like, here's 14 articles. You're so good at that.
It's
The thing that I am appreciative about both of you guys, and I think we could talk a little bit about this as well, and I think there's a big shift that I'm trying to make as a leader. I think you guys embody this, which is leadership is about building capacity in people, not having people do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And I think when I think about like failures that I've made, or just my path in leadership was oftentimes just do what I want you to do. And yet, how I see you interact with staff is all around building up their capacity. And it's not a matter of like, do this procedure in this way and you'll get this result. You're teaching them to be good behavior analysts. And I wonder if we could just talk a little bit about that, and like, how do you go in and approaching that? And you both have goals. You have competency that clinicians have to get to. Timelines, criteria they need to be successful in.
And a lot of people. You're not just training 1 or 2 people at a time.
40.
Like you're training 20, 25, and 40 people who are also training people, because it's we've shifted into this pyramidal model. So it's a dream job. It's the best job, I think.
The best job in the company.
I mean,
stand by it.
Yeah. Won't change it.
No, stand by it.
People are like, you have a really cool job. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
1000%.
Yes, I do. Indeed. Get your hands off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And something about that too is that, like, I say this, we have our some days with 6, 7 overlaps, things like that. And just shifting from each of those overlaps is so different, right? Like, all of these people we're training are all different. So, how they approach things, like with urgency or a sense of no urgency whatsoever, or how confident they feel, or what their learning history is, like, it's all so different. So I think that I've gotten more fluent, and definitely you are fluent in it, just kind of switching gears like that. And I think that there's just this air of flexibility we always have to have, and to just be able to know people enough that we can support. Everyone should get our best selves. I know that's not always, you can't be perfect ever. You're not perfection at all. I think I've let go of that a little while ago in my career. But you have to show up the same for everybody. And I think about that when I'm on my 8th overlap of the day or whatever, that you want to show up like you did for your first one for everybody. And I think that being present and being present twice, very present, being present for them, and being able to ask those questions and genuinely be curious. I think that is something that I've built fluency with, and I think it adds to how much you can support each person. So that's
I'm gonna dig in a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get some. So you're going from overlap to overlap.
Yeah.
You jump into one, they're doing everything wrong.
Well, wrong is subjective.
Okay, they're doing everything in the way that doesn't align to our expectations.
They don't have their headphone in. They don't have video.
You see some engagement with clients that
that don't align with our values. Yeah. Like, what do you do?
Well, I think values misalignment is something that we have to interrupt, and be like have those. Hey, I'm gonna have you stop doing what you're doing, and I think that comes back to the relationship too that we have with them. When I know you always refer to it like the bank we have to pull those hard conversations, and knowing that they know what my intentions are, and that I can do that in a way that is still building rapport. I think about that with our learners and staff, is that we if we saw some values misalignment in a session, we would be able to say, hey, like we need to reassess what's going on, or hey, I'm going to step in and coach here and get us through this, and then we'll have some time to reflect and talk about it after. So I think something with that, it needs to be modeled, because obviously there, you could watch someone continue to struggle, and especially with it being not values aligned, I think it's something you need to interrupt and kind of model and coach through and then reflect afterwards.
I think though it depends on what it is, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
if it's something small and
Sure.
it's like, well, it's not in the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
We're doing something so valuable right now that to attend to that other thing that's maybe like how they delivered feedback or a way they spoke to a client or like a redirection that we'd be like,
Sure.
we might not attend to that when we're doing something else really meaningful. But when it comes to like services or engagements with our technicians, between supervisor technicians, with our families, or with our clients that are harmful, then I think we do need to have the relationship where people can trust us to say, I know you're doing the best you can do, and let me help you understand how to do this in a different way.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really appreciated about our conversation with Nasia and Ellie yesterday was this idea of listening for values and like not necessarily sitting down and being like, what are your values?
Sure.
Which is very valuable to do, but we don't always have that opportunity with the people that we're engaging with. But like, how do you listen for, right? Like to hear those things. And so y'all don't necessarily have the opportunity to sit down and be like, what are your values? How do they align to the foundations of care? How do they align to the organization? Maybe something we should think about changing. But one of the things I hear you saying is you're listening for those things. So Ed, like how are some ways you listen for values and help use those or support those values in alignment to mission and get people to come along?
For me, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just what people say. It's what they do, how they talk about. I mean, I guess it is what they say, but it's not that they're telling you, I value this, I appreciate this. But the way that, there's some people, the way that they talk about PFASBT, just the language that they use, the attitude that they use towards it, you can pick up a lot about their learning history, just based on that, whether there's going to be barriers there. They've had sometimes.
Yeah, I've always done that.
Yeah, you can pick up real quick. I'm like, have you had a bad experience doing SBT in the past? I'm picking
The
up
my
some
way thing
vibes
doesn't
here.
work.
And so there's things like that, and you can look in their programming, the way that they program for kids. Sometimes you can just see that we're targeting some splinter skills here, or we're not getting at the source of the problem, or the source of kind of where the deficits lie. And when you do that, you kind of get stuck in some places. And so there's a lot of things we go in. We're very observant. That's the biggest thing, to see just what's going on. I was in a clinic recently, and a client was having a tough time. But I had to wait a little bit. I didn't want to step on the clinician's toes because they were handling the situation the best that they could. And I had to wait a little bit to, once again, to pick up on how is she addressing it? What are the staff doing, right? Like, where is there some need? Where might there be a gap? And I was able to, in a couple minutes, ask a couple questions, and we were able to solve that problem relatively quick. And it turns out the clinician didn't have a chance to kind of scope the situation before she jumped in to help. But it was like being able to take a step back, being able to kind of look at the entirety of the situation and pick up on cues. It's like, I don't think this is normal. Like, I think this is going beyond what's expected here. Let's dig in a little bit. We solved it relatively quick. We were able to turn it around.
Is there an experience you can talk about when you had that observation, you reviewed a treatment plan, and maybe it wasn't just a values misalignment, but it was just like not clear on how to like treat aligned to their values?
Yeah, we had a couple. There was one that was just like clear misalignment in the plan, and so
I'm going to pause. Can we, for the people who are listening, what does it mean to have clear misalignment in a plan? I think helping define that is really important.
We have some pretty steadfast kind of guidance on our foundational plan. I'm going to say the P word, but like punishment procedures, right? We know that they're scientific principle, we know that they're effective, and we're not saying you can't use them, but we're looking for some justification around why you're using them and some programming to make sure that it is appropriate in the context, right? And so if I'm going in and reading a plan, I'm seeing some response costs or some boundary holding that A, aren't relatively appropriate boundaries, and B, we're withholding stuff for arbitrary reasons, and then I don't see a good synthesized reinforcement context to me there's not enough justification for the procedures that you're using. And so I need to dig in a little bit and say, what are we doing here? What does this look like? And what is your goal? Kind of, what's the issue you're trying to solve? What is the challenge that we're having that you find this to be the necessary route? And what have we already tried? What hasn't worked for you? And we're able to relatively quickly figure out there's not enough synthesized reinforcement or HRA. Like, it's usually a very foundational thing that we're able to say, like, I think maybe we've skipped a couple steps here to establish like a really robust, enriched environment and a good programming before we jump into something a little bit more restrictive.
One thing we learned really early on is that we would use, 2 years ago, we would have taken a case like that and moved them right into skill-based treatment. And what would happen is, all of a sudden, when putting a client from that context into a really rich synthesized reinforcement context with very clear cues, SDs, and procedures, it would be like, why are we doing SBT? Like, this client doesn't actually need SBT. What we needed to do was work on this environment and how we're treating in this environment. And then all of the kind of problems that we were trying to solve kind of resolve themselves. It doesn't completely, but to a degree that we can get back into teaching, we can get back into being productive together with our clients. And so we switched to doing foundational plans first, which is our universal protocol. However, most of our staff, I think we have almost all of our staff that are coming to us because their values align with our mission, which is assent-based care. But many of them are coming because we're talking about this shiny PFA SBT thing, but we're asking them to do that first before we start PFA and SBT. And so part of my question is they're coming with that values mindset, maybe not fully understanding what an assent-based care framework looks like outside of the bright, shiny, practical functional assessment. And so if that is their value, is to do this really cool thing, and then we're bringing them in and saying yes, and we want you to do this first. We want to make sure you're competent in setting up an environment that's successful, that's supporting your clients in the right way. That can lead to some frustration with our staff. And we've seen that. We've seen people leave our organization because they say, we're not getting the training we were told we were going to get. Or they're like, when can I do SBT? I really want to do SBT. And meanwhile, you have a plan like that you run across on their team, with their clients. You're like, well, you might not be ready for that yet. How do you walk through that with people when it comes up? And how do you get them, one, how do you walk through it? But I really want to recenter the conversation around values alignment, because their values are in alignment, but the behaviors we're asking them to engage in, they might not have the correspondence between their values and the behaviors yet.
I usually will lead off with something like, our clients come first.
That's powerful.
Can you say that?
We want our clinicians, our teams, to have the skills to support all of our clients. But the reality is 25 to 30% of our clients need PFA SBT. It's a more intrusive, more resource-heavy intervention. That means 70 to 75% of our clients don't. And that's true for all of our clinicians. And so we have some clinicians that don't have any high acuity, high risk clients. So while we want them to get the training, the reality is it might be delayed for them. And if training them in PFA SBT would mean a client getting PFA SBT who didn't need it, and a delay in their clients, the team that they actually are supporting, getting the support that they need, which is just our foundational plan training, right? We've 80% of the issues that we solve come from a well-written, well-implemented foundational plan. And that's why it's in our risk categorization guidance, right? In order to even qualify to get your escalation, your client escalated to get some additional support, we have to make sure we've crossed our T's, dotted our I's. That means having your plan written, having a DCS, review it with you, going over all the strategies, making sure that there's fidelity, because that is the next biggest piece. Do you know how to write it? And then do you know how to implement it and coach it? And if you've done those things well, 80% of the time, it's not an issue anymore, right? And we don't need to be any more intrusive. We can go back to just our integrated programming. And in those 20%, we escalate, we get the support that they need, and they go into mentorship or they get a one-off consultation, we train them.
Yeah. And I think too, something that I have kind of built into that conversation, and I'm sure you have too, is just that, we've changed our mentorship, right? It's been changed, and the reason that it's changed,
we just changed it last week,
right? It's evolved, and the reason it's evolved is because of feedback we've gotten,
Yeah.
right? And realizing that only 30% or whatever it is of our kids only need SBT, right?
Right, Timothy?
So I just look at that.
I used to thought it was 100%. So,
But I just look at when we talk about like our responsiveness to feedback and the why behind it, like that transparency and also the tools and the things that we've changed, I think we get that alignment, right? Like and also the power of the foundational plan. People see that as they're updating it, as they're getting more fluent in writing it, and it's less kind of frustrating there. And us giving them the skills to be able to do it like efficiently and well, they see those changes in their clients. And I think that their values align, right? So that's it for them. Like they're okay with it because they see the results and they get the reasoning behind. I think a why is really important.
It is.
Yeah, especially for people who are really concerned with that.
when Ed was talking about the beauty of the foundational plan and the work that can come out as a result of it, it actually made me think of leaders that we support. And at times we have a leader who's struggling under some other leader, and they'll be on like a performance improvement plan, or they have some documentation to support them, right? And then they transition to a different leader, and there's a different relationship, and all of a sudden, this person doesn't need a performance improvement plan.
They're improving.
They're improving, right? They're growing, and so like shifting the conversation, like supporting staff. When I think about the essence, and yes, I am with much smarter people than I in this process, but like when I think about the process that we go through from foundational plan through PFA to SPT, it's around building relationship that centers around trust, so that we can work through hard things together. And at any point, it's too hard. We don't have, like, you trust that, like, I'm going to guide you through it, and we're either going to continue through or we're going to pull out. And to me, I think we ask you guys to do that with all of our staff. Especially in the early days, when maybe we weren't hiring people that were coming to us because of our values alignment, right?
And many of those people are still here. So
Still
like
here.
I want to plug that, like,
Yeah.
many people weren't coming for that. Many people who worked here were like, Centria has tried to do a lot of things. This is never going to happen. And I'm like, bet. Tell me I can't, and we will. And it was hard, right? Like to get to work with some folks who are very, it's not disparaging, but like they were in a context that was very comfortable. And we asked them to stretch and be uncomfortable and put them in a little bit of an EO context.
And sometimes without a my way button, right? And so that is I think is the question for you guys, which is like, how do you support people who are in like the EO, and we can't pull that away,
And keep them at baseline, or at least engaged with us.
I mean, I think it goes back to shaping, right? God, I knew. You know what? I knew you were going to say it, and I took it. I stole it.
It's really good.
No, I think you take a step back, right? And you look at the bigger picture. You look at what their skills are. You look at what their deficits are. You look at what maybe you've picked up on through listening and being curious, and you shape in smaller steps.
You adjust.
Yeah.
Meet them where they're at.
So it's still an EO context, but you're breaking it down for them.
Turning down
modeling.
the heat.
One of the things that one of my go-to moves when this is like, you know, when you're really dug in, you've got a lot of building to do. I take a lot of time to figure out where their strengths are, and let them be successful with stuff. Right. It's like, hey, I see that you are maybe super bubbly. Great, let's do that for a little while. Like, what are you good at? And let's lean on that for a bit, because a lot of times it's just breaking down the connotation of I'm just here to tell you to do something different. And a lot of our clinicians have a lot of skills already. All of our clinicians have a lot of skills, right? Like there's just certain skills that they might not have. And so being able to identify what those skills are and lean into them and highlight them while then challenging them in other ways, it takes the edge off. And that's been really, really, that's like, I do that a lot more depending, you know, I can spend a lot of time on like, hey, I see you do this really, really well. I see like you've really thought out your programming, and this is where we can include that, right? Like if we're developing branches, or what are we gonna work on? It's like, well, I already see you've done this work. So I'm not asking you to do something different. I'm asking you to like, let's put it in here in a different way, so that you can still, you know, work on the things that you're looking to do. And so like kind of coming at them in a different way, in a different perspective, and just not overhauling their programming and just letting them see like, hey, you're doing really well. This is where it fits in. This is where we can move from. And then shaping it up works every time.
Yeah, works every time.
It's been great.
It does.
It's been a good strategy.
I mean, because at the core of everything you are saying is a deep, trusting relationship, right?
Yeah.
And like I struggle with this because I don't get the opportunity to spend a lot of time building a lot of rapport with folks. Like y'all, it's like, hey, Hillary, come in for like parachute in complex case support or a complex situation. And I'm like, I'm here for an hour. And I want to make that meaningful for everyone. So I don't always get that opportunity. But to be able to challenge, you need that. And so sometimes I know for myself, my challenges don't come across the way that I want them to because I haven't had that opportunity to build that rapport, and I may or may not have that opportunity. And it's something I'm constantly reflecting on how to do better. But y'all do have that opportunity. And so because you have that and you're in a micro shape because you have the time and we want you to take the time. And when we talk, I just want to like make a clarifying statement. When we talk about timelines, we do have like expectations of getting things done, but all just like with our clients, with our learners, which are our supervising clinicians and directors, it is learner based, right? Like we don't say, you know, just because it's week 8, you're gonna do this now, and now it's week 9 and you're gonna do this. We say, you're at week 8 and that's great. And this is where we are. And we're trying to go here. So it might be 16 weeks, it might be 20 weeks, it might be 12 weeks. It's dependent on you and your learning and how you coach. Do you have those open conversations with people at points around where they are, where they're going, and kind of what the barriers are for them, and how do you navigate those?
I would say it comes back to the why and being transparent with them. So I would say it's better to have those conversations more often. I think that you're also on the same page then from the beginning. You can check in. It's maybe not be something you talk about each week or each overlap, but I'm just kind of reminding them of the goal, of the outcome, of where we're at, where we had to take a turn, where we had to make a change.
That's usually my first. That's not even a conversation I have all the time because a lot of times people are already aligned, people are ready to go. It's kind of when you start to see some absences or some bumps in the road, some drift, and you're like, let's come back, let's recenter and see like, well, are we here for the same reason? What's the expectation with this? And like, because that's like the does this need to be escalated conversation, right? Like, are we able to just make a switch right now, or do we need some additional support to make sure that we can get through the expectations so that we can get the training done and get the clients the services that they need?
Well, yeah, and when you see some of that, right, it might not be because of avoidance, it might be because of other barriers, but I think that recentering is really important, right? Because it could be for a variety of reasons.
I can feel you itching to ask a question.
No.
No, I just was going to say something clarifying that I think is important for our team, which is we don't, like you said, escalations, and I think sometimes there is many things when you're in a training role that can be very negative and have negative connotations, and I just want to make a point that like for us an escalation isn't a bad thing.
Right.
It's the opportunity for more resources and more support to make sure that the people that we want to be successful get what they need and the tools that they need to be successful.
That's a very good point, because we've had to fight that idea of even like us getting involved being punitive in terms of like, no, we just need some additional support.
Yeah,
and
we're a resource.
Yeah, we've had, it's a transformation of function, right? Because people are not used to people coming in being a good thing.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, we walk into clinics at this point, and when we first walked into clinics, it was
Now everyone's like,
a little bit,
Now everyone's so happy, but man, it was
there's
rough.
requests to have us come out, and then that's seen as a positive thing, and that took years of showing up and being consistent and bringing value.
Bringing value, showing outcomes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that risk, at times, maybe it doesn't always have to, but I think that people will lean on us a little bit in our relationship and our rapport with, the people that need to have something, maybe escalated. And I think that is how it should be, because making that escalation as beneficial as possible, like, takes that leaning in. And people knowing also us and our intention is to get them support, right? It's not to escalate a risk because we want to get someone in trouble.
Yeah.
It's how can we need a little more resources and support. And so I think people know that now.
It's so rare that we come in as an escalation, quote unquote, and like take a score anybody on anything, right? It's like there is no grading going on. It's usually like, is the client doing better?
Yeah.
Everyone wins, right?
Yeah.
It's just like there is no like escalation. Like, oh, let's make sure that you're doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe there's some action items that we leave you with just to make sure we're progressing skills. But at the end of the day, it's like, are you doing better? Is the client doing better? Great.
Good.
You know, like I have office hours. If you need any more support, I'll see you later.
Which comes back to your first point, which is what's best for the client.
Yeah.
What's your guys' HRE?
What makes you HRE?
I think it depends on maybe the day. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of times at work. So, I mean, seeing someone learn skills and just being a part of their growth, I think to me is really important. But if we're talking outside of work, I think we're talking about being at the horse barn, being with my kid, being with good people, quality time, building relationships.
I think I have 3 HREs.
Yeah.
Maybe 4. I have 2
I know, I have a
professional,
few different,
two
too.
professional HREs. One is dressing up and coming to conferences. One is mentoring people.
Yeah.
I think being able to develop a relationship, a closer relationship, and see people thrive is really neat. And to have people come to me for that is even cooler. And then on a personal note, being with my family, my daughter, my wife.
Yeah.
And the days we spend going out is one, and then being able to like turn everything off, just hang out with my friends, good music, good food, good drinks, and hang out. That's it.
And I think that our professional work being our HRE is what just, I mean, that's why we're here, right? We'll fight anybody
I mean,
for it.
I think I am gonna, forever reflect on the conversation we had yesterday around like listening for values. And so in the spirit of that, what I hear, your values are in supporting people.
Yeah.
And so it is very, easy isn't the right word, but it like makes it easier when your values are directly aligned with the work that you're doing.
So it's so easy.
It's so okay. So it is so
It's
easy.
so
But it's
easy.
and like there's no one who's come into our field not having the value of wanting to help people, right? But like when you become a BCBA, the value of wanting to help people gets clouded by the notes, the back and forth, the operational challenges, the training, the mentorship, the expectations, the feedback, right? That value starts to get a little bit farther away and a little harder to achieve. And so have you seen that with people that you've mentored where it's like their value and what they want to be getting out of work, they came in with that easy alignment, but now achieving that and seeing those results and contacting those consequences is a little bit harder. And how have you helped them navigate that and kind of recenter, to your point, like recenter back on like what actions am I taking that are an EO that I don't really like that are going to engage me closer to my values?
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of something you talked about a few minutes ago of like when you are seeing some misalignment maybe in the foundational plan. I think that people might have a value but not have the skill sets to get there. So they might be just missing, maybe they were, maybe in school or maybe in a previous job, they were kind of taught how to do things with using maybe some of those punishment procedures and like, them having a time and a place is a thing, but us teaching those skills like, HRE, synthesized reinforcement, shaping better with our clients. I think sometimes they just need a little more skill building to be able to have that, alignment for them. And it's such a beautiful thing when you see it. They're like, I can achieve that now. I just needed some support. And I think that's something that comes to mind for me.
It's easy for people to get lost in the shuffle of the hustle of the work. I think BCBAs, burnout comes up a lot. You can get into you were talking about the administrative parts of the job, right? All of the paperwork and things like that, and then supporting your family, supporting your team, and you can lose your way when you're just trying to show up all the time. And so being able to, we have the privilege of being able to come in and have an outside perspective and like kind of tact that for people and maybe help them do some reflection or help them take a minute to figure out what it is that they're looking for, what are they trying to achieve, and are they achieving it, right? Some people are clearly not, some people are having a great time, and so being able to make adjustments like that and look at things from their view or try to figure out what makes them tick and whether or not they're accessing those reinforcers for themselves. We don't get a lot of time with them, so we have to do some of that really quick, but
Well, I just
It
think
makes a
their
big
job
difference.
must be frustrating too if they are values aligned, but they're doing things that maybe don't align to those values. So then you see someone who's frustrated, and it might not always be clear why. So
Yeah.
I think too, something that just comes up, it's like a little bit off the subject, but it's that I look at all of our new BCBAs that are here, and I just think like, I wish that I had had a space like that, right? Like these are baby BCBAs, sometimes, you know, not depending on the state that they're in, you know, sometimes not even BCBAs quite yet, but I just think you get to work somewhere and have people shaping your behavior from the beginning. Like, I spent years just, I mean, honestly, trying to jump up a waterfall like a salmon. I mean, come on now. You're exhausted from doing that, and they don't have to do that here.
No.
And I just think a clinic in Arizona sticks out in mind where there are all these very young clinicians, and just going in there, every overlap, they were just curious. But also, were there a few things that were maybe misaligned in their foundational plans? Absolutely. The minute you introduce, and I have goosebumps literally, the minute you introduce something that clicks with them and is values aligned, and they're just like, I didn't even think about that, or no one's ever showed me that. And I'm like, you got to learn that so early. And so I think that really is very values aligned for me, is that we get to offer that safe space.
Yeah.
And we've created a large safe space for that at Centria. And I just think too, even from 2 years ago, and I think that we've tackled this a lot with our new, rounds of mentorship. It's amazing coming into those PFA designs and things like that. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Your foundational plan, awesome. Cool. Get through all I even finished on time, Ed. I finished with 10 minutes to spare in the design meeting.
Yeah.
And I just think it's because if you want to use the word standardized, but I think all of our leaders are there.
Yeah.
Like, and
they
to
have the
have been a
training.
part of their journey and stuff, I think is pretty neat. Yeah.
Do you have any more questions? I always have questions for you guys. I definitely have had another one pop up, which is, we haven't talked about this on the podcast almost at all, but we've developed this idea of the foundational 5, which is like our...
My mind. I was like, where am I going to squeeze this topic?
I got you. Which is like these 5 core principles of how, and it's behaviorally oriented to teach our staff how to engage with clients. And so I can spoil the little bit, but it's like focusing on HRE, getting therapeutic alliance with our clients, making sure we're setting appropriate boundaries, knowing when to encourage persistence, and then reflective practice. And so we use those foundational 5s for you all to guide staff and how to think about treating clients. But one of the things I'm really excited about that's really aligned to this podcast is that we've been working on something aligned to that. And Ed, I wanted to give you the opportunity to plug one of our projects that I think we're both really excited about.
I'm excited. I'll be talking about it in the symposium later.
Which no one will know. This is going to air well after APBA.
I know, but
It'll catch us at
I'm
another
excited.
conference. Yeah.
We put a lot of effort into figuring out these core effective features, core components of what it takes to be a good technician, right?
In an assent-based care framework.
In an assent-based care framework, right? And
what is the definition of good, right? Like, that's what we were trying to do.
yeah.
What are the vibes of good? Was how we started. It's like, what feels good to see? What looks good?
It's not
And then
about
how do we-
RBT task lists.
No.
It's like, that comes next. We're not saying that that's not important, but this is how we know if you're going to be a good staff with us, if you can work with
operational.
kids. Can you work with kids?
Yes.
In
It's
a
operational
meaningful
and
way?
measurable.
And so we were like, why stop there, right? I think it will make the foundational 5 more powerful if we're able to create a transcendent set of skills and repertoires that goes from the technician all the way up through our directors. And so being able to figure out, like, does this framework work? And looking at it, and I mean, I'm hoping through the conversation you can see some of the important pieces. We create HRE for our clients. We need our staff to be HRE.
Yep.
We need to know what makes them tick. We need to create psychologically safe environments for them to show up to work. Right, therapeutic alliance. That's the whole conversation has been on establishing rapport with our staff. The boundaries piece is really more about clear expectations and transparency, which you need to be able to come in as a leader and do what you have to do. Being responsive to your team is another piece, and the reflective practice, being able to sit back and lean in on why are we here, like making sure that you are part of your team, you're a part of the contingency in terms of how your team develops, and looking to model that for your team and how you're growing as a person and how you are helping them grow. But I think those 5 skills at the clinician and the director level all make sense to me as starting points. We're not saying that this is like how you do everything, but this is, if you can do these 5 core things, we can build off of that in every way. And so we're like leaning into that and really making this a robust kind of thing, I think will help all of the teams see how we can live and operate in our values and what that looks like in action.
I think the coolest thing about this project is the like thread of like the transcendence, right? So it's like, yes, you know how to do this as a clinician with your client. Do you know how to do that for each other? Do you know how to do that with your team? Does your director know how to do that for you? And that just, it's like a very clear line of it's alignment, right? And then it's one of the things I talk about a lot when I do presentations is that like teaching people to speak a common language is really powerful. And we already have a common language, so why not leverage that common language to teach leadership skills? Because we can help people make those frames around how it shows up for them with a client, how it should show up for them with a clinician, how it should show up with them anytime they're interacting, and ideally in their own personal relationships too. Like the things we're talking about they're life things. Yeah. And I'm very excited about it. We have a couple hours that we need to schedule to sit down and start hashing this out more. We have it pretty well built out. Yeah. I mean, you do.
Make a rubric, roll it out, don't tell anyone, make sure it works, and then tell everybody.
That's what we do.
I can't think of a better question to end on.
Go ahead.
No,
that was a great question.
Yeah. It's been a joy talking to you guys.
It has been.
It's been a joy to be a leader, having you on the team, and just really proud of the work that you guys do.
Yeah,
Thank
agreed.
you so much for
Thank
having
you.
us on.
Yeah.
Love that you came.
Yay.
I absolutely adore Ed and Brit.
So do I.
And what I like...
Bread,
yeah. They're very similar in a lot of ways.
Very.
Right, and one thing that was like impressed upon me across the conversation was that we have 2 incredible humans that are all about like building capacity in people and like coming alongside people and supporting and developing them. And there was a moment during the conversation where I had to reflect on like, I wish that was innate. Like those are skills that I have to like work on and develop. I have a greater sense to like lean towards like control, right? And
do it.
Yeah, just do exactly what I'm telling you to do, right? And that skill is, they're in their role for a reason.
I know.
Yeah. And it was just a powerful conversation.
To me, it was like a team meeting for me. Like I get to spend a lot of time with the 2 of them, and it's, honestly, I will be completely transparent with you that we'll meet and we'll spend 30 minutes of our 30 minutes talking about nothing that's really important to our jobs and each other and like what we're challenged by, what we're having a great time with. And then it's like, oh shit, what did we need to talk about? And then we spend 3 minutes getting all of the things that we need to support each other on. And it's mostly like, we made these decisions, are they good? Or we need your help with this thing. And then we're 5 minutes over, which makes me 5 minutes late everywhere. But like the genuine connection that we start with is so valuable to me. And I told them they were nervous to come and I'm like, just treat it like a team meeting. Like we're just hanging out. To me, the 2 of them embody what we're trying to do for our clients. They embody the idea of like compassion, assent, deep caring, therapeutic alliance, shaping, knowing when to persist. Like they are so good at it, and they have been so successful. Like we talk a lot about the transformation that we've gone through as an organization, and I just want to make sure that when we talk about that, people know that they are like the most integral components. Them, and like we've had other people in that role, Cindy, Lisa, Kaylin, and others, like they have been such an integral component of the change we've been able to do. Yeah, and when you think about the change that we are in the midst of, have done, will continue to do, it takes their approach to get there. Does. But it also takes visionaries, right? And it's like the combination of 2. Ed found this description of like the dreamers and the doers. And he's like, this is hilarious. He sent it to me. He's like, this is so funny because you're just like a word vomit all the time. And you're like, here's these ideas and here's these things. But he tells me this, like you, Hillary, don't have the skills to execute on some of that vision, which is completely true. And you're the same way. Yeah. And I think that is what makes you a great leader for me. Like you were talking yesterday, I think it was yesterday, everything's blending together. And I was in the very back of the room and I leaned over and I told Ed, actually sitting next to each other, and I was like, I could never speak with the articulation and vision that you speak at, the way you speak in front of a room. Like it's inspiring to me, and I get to hear that from you like every day, but even listening to you talk, I was like inspired and reinvigorated in our mission. But like you had the vision of the mission, but you didn't, you executed the mission by what you said. You hired people who are really good to help you because you know your gaps. And they are gap fillers. Like they are the doers of the vision. They have vision, don't get me wrong, but they're the doers of the vision. They're what makes it come to life. And otherwise it's just talk.
Yeah.
And talk is really cheap.
And I just think about like their support in the fulfillment of the vision is like, you know, we had this idea of how we're going to provide care and what our goals are and like what Ascent could look like at Centria. And that was the vision, right? The part that they've all filled in and you've helped lead fill in, which is like, how do you do that? Which is like, how do you support staff to get there? Like, how do you go into a center that's not accepting of this approach? And how do you build relationship? How do you shift those practices? And like, I often have like the thought of what we want, and then like, and in true fashion, it takes a lot of people to figure out what we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
Across a variety of states that we're in. Think about this conference that we're at. Like, I had a goal that we'd have this event, but you know how many people have had to work hard to execute on this great week.
And just making dinner reservations is hard for you and I.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, I don't know where I'm going in 1 minute, let alone in 2 weeks, you know?
Yeah. But when you think about that, just to wrap up with Ed and Brit, like they embody this idea that like they understand like what the goals are, but they also understand it's a journey to get there, and they're like coming alongside and just like shepherding people through this journey. And some of the questions I was asking them, like, they're really questions for me because I can't do what they do, and their answers were just like, it's obvious. This is like, and it was like the same answer, and I'm like, but no, tell me some more details because I don't know. And you just like, hey, let's just talk about this. And I'm like,
that's not an innate skill for me.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I appreciate the most about working with them and like seeing them execute is that yes, they are walking alongside people, but part of walking alongside people is like listening and like changing. So my team has been so flexible, and I think like we wouldn't be where we are today without, like, progress isn't linear. So like there have been things that we've majorly screwed up, and because of like the values that we that we believe in, that we want the teams to believe in, as they're walking beside, they're like adjusting, and like we've revamped things like completely overhauled them based on the feedback that we've gotten in the field, and that is walking beside people. It's like, it isn't do it because I said so. It's like, let's do this together and tell me what's not working and let me adjust. And that's how we've gotten to the point where we can just jump into centers and everyone's cool with it, because we learned some hard lessons of going into centers without that trust, that rapport, that understanding, and it not going well. And honestly, I had some conversations with people this week where they reminded me of those hard lessons, where they said, like, you degraded trust with us, and like, I'm so glad I got the chance to connect with you today, because I didn't see you as someone I could trust because of those mistakes I'd made in the past. And I'm grateful for the opportunity at this conference in particular to restart a learning history. Like, I'm just being very selfish when I say that for myself. So that's what I appreciate about them, is they're super flexible, and we're currently interviewing for someone to join the team. And that's when, like, the primary thing I've asked them is like, how do you do when we just say tomorrow we're going to do this, but then at the end of the day we're pivoting 90 degrees? Like, how do you respond to that? Because that is how we operate, and it's a beautiful thing.
Agreed.
And they do it so well.
And you have to be able to do that well because you're sort of supporting people through that change.
And change is hard.
And so if you aren't able to adapt there, like, your ability to help other people is going to be challenged.
It's about knowing how to use, like, have the trust and give the why to allow people to be scared, but link arms with you and do it anyway. Yeah, and they're really good at that.
Agreed.
It was a great episode. I love them.
And that concludes another episode of the HRE podcast.
Thanks for listening. If the HRE podcast is a part of your synthesized reinforcers, let us know what else would make the perfect reinforcement context for you in the comments below, and join us next time.